back on the Nerdy Rich channel. I know it's been a minute since I've been on the channel. Sorry about that. Let's get into Dexter Season 3. So we're still in the middle of my Dexter review series. So let's always say time, let's get into it. So next we are talking Dexter Season 3. So I'm going to spoil what happened at the end of Dexter Season 2. So definitely spoiler for Season 2. If you have that Season 2, skip ahead. Well, obviously finish Season 2 and then come back to see Season 3 for this review. But at the end of it, Dokes was ultimately killed by Lila, who was Dexter's sponsor, because he was going to rehab to get Dokes' betrayal. And of course, he was able to blame Dokes for his murders throughout the entire show and up to that point. So everything he did before the events of the show, and obviously we see Dexter original sin for all the murders that happened within that show and everything. So they ended up blaming Dokes, and of course, Dexter was trying to frame Dokes more with it, but of course, he was able to get away with it since Lila killed him at the end of that season, and now we're up to Season 3, where now Dexter is still trying to figure out how to get a balanced life between him and Rita, the kids, and everything else in Miami Metro, especially since the death of Dokes, because everybody is now on edge about it, because, you know, Dokes was, even though Dokes could be an ass, he was still a good guy towards everybody. He loved his team very much, but now it's time for Dexter to try to get back into the swing of things. But he still has everything. He's still unbalanced because he can't figure out what he wants more. He wants to still be a killer, doesn't want to be a family man, or anything like that. But as the story goes along, we end up getting a new serial killer called the Skinner, who is going around and literally skinning people. So Dexter is trying to figure out that as he tried to help out Miami Metro with that. But we also get introduced to another character named Miguel Prado. Miguel is I think a prosecutor, or he's a lawyer, and he's of course works with Miami Metro. He knows everybody there. He knows, of course, Dexter. He's been with Maria. Yeah, he's been longtime friends with Maria for an extremely long time. So they work together on multiple different cases and stuff like that. But as, of course, the series goes along, he ends up finding out Dexter's dark secret. But instead of doing the right thing and turning Dexter in for all the murders and everything he's done, and piecing together that he was the Bay Harbor Butcher killer, he ends up joining Dexter and learning how to become a proper serial killer, just like Dexter. And that becomes a huge problem as the series goes along. And that's basically the events of Season 3. Season 3 is a very simple season. We have, obviously, two killers this time around. Of course, Miguel is the primary killer. It's the main killer. That's why I'm saying it early. And then the Skinner is technically the real main killer. But the problem with the Skinner, which I'll talk about here real quick for the story, the Skinner is probably one of the most forgettable killers in all of Dexter. Every other killer, whether good or bad as a killer, is way more memorable than him, because the Skinner, we get mentions of him a couple of times, we get to see him a few times, but he's not a big part. The main story is really about Miguel and Dexter's whole relationship, and how that ultimately started off as a beautiful friendship, but slowly become darker and darker because he started to see the dark side of Miguel, because Miguel is somebody who wants, obviously, more power. He wants to be higher in his field, but he also wants to go around and killing people. And Dexter's trying hard to teach him about Harry's code, about not killing innocent people, only killing criminals that obviously escaped our system, being that they both work for the police and stuff like that. And Miguel, throughout the entire season, is slowly starting to become more darker because of it. So now Dexter has to make a decision to either take out Miguel in order to save a bunch of innocent people, or let Miguel continue on doing what he's doing. And that's what I really do love about this season, is that we finally get somebody who actually knows about Dexter's secret and actually tries to understand it and try to understand how did he even get to this point, compared to some other characters that when they find out, they'll judge him at first before they eventually, get used to it. But there's a lot of that going on in the later season. Of course, you have Rita and Dexter are getting much more closer, to the point where Dexter is ready to propose to Rita, and then that becomes a whole big storyline. You have Miguel and his wife helping them out with that. With that situation, of course, Miami Metro is still trying to figure out this new Skinner case. We also get introduced to another new character called Joey Quinn, or for now I'll just call him Quinn, who plays a good part in here. He gets, of course, he gets very close to Debs throughout the entire season, and you'll see what goes on with that as the show goes along. Of course, he gets used to the other members of Miami Metro, but overall, oh yeah, an Angel obviously becomes the next sergeant because obviously, Dukes is gone, so they need a new sergeant, so he ends up becoming much higher. Him and Maria slowly start their little thing going on in this season, but I'll talk more in depth about that in a much later season. But yeah, overall, that's all of season 3. Season 3 is a like I said, very straightforward season, but I really do enjoy the season. Now, a lot of people think this is the weakest season out of the big four seasons. Of course, season 1, 2, 3, and 4. But honestly, I like this season more than season 2, even though I love Dokes, and Dokes is one of my favorite characters. If they just strictly stick with Dokes' plotline, it would have been probably my favorite season. But of course, you had a big storyline at the being the Bay Harbor Butcher case way early in the show, where it should have been the ending of the show, and you kind of blew your load with that because once that got finished, now we got to keep making up stuff just to make the show go on. And as we know, there's still a couple more seasons still left over. But I still enjoy this season because, again, we got somebody that knows Dexter's secret, being Miguel, and we slowly get to see Miguel turn to darkness, and we also get to see, just other aspect in Dexter's life. Him trying to become a family man, with Rita trying to really do good by her after the events of season 2. We have Miami Metro that's still trying their best to become great detectives and cops to try to help with these different situations. But of course, Dexter being Dexter, we know how that's going to end up at the end of the season. But it's still good to see them trying. Of course, Debs is a detective by this point. She's doing her thing. And, I like that she does play a huge part of solving the case by the end of the show, by the end of the season. And, yeah, there's a lot of great things for this season. I personally love this season. But, anyway, let's get to the character portion. So let's go up with the man himself, Dexter. So this time around, Dexter Season 3, Dexter is still trying to, wrap his mind around everything that happened within Season 2. Of course, as I already explained in the earlier part of the video, Doug was killed off by Lila, so now Dexter is trying to piece back his life back together, but as he's finally kind of getting everything back together, him and Rita are doing good, the kids and him are still doing good, he's still doing good at Miami Metro, and he's still able to kill people, but one day he's in the middle of hunting down somebody, and he goes to try to kill them, but the person he was trying to kill ends up killing somebody innocent, and that ends up becoming a huge problem because we later find out that it was Miguel's younger brother. So now Dexter is trying to hide that as Miguel is trying to figure out who killed his brother, while also learning about Dexter's secret of him being a serial killer, so that ultimately clashes together. So now you have Dexter in a new situation where he's trying to teach somebody Harry's code, because he's been the only one using that code since he got the code when he was still very young, when he was still like a younger man. So now he's trying to keep Miguel on the right path, like say, hey, you can only kill people that are serial killers or people who are objectively bad people. You can't just kill anybody just because. But Miguel is like, no, we should be able to kill like these certain people, da 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 da, for what they did, what they did and all this other stuff. And that's what makes season 3 so great when it comes to these two relationships, is that Dexter is more of a mentor this time around. He's trying his best, but he's also going through a lot of other things on top of that. You also have Rita, who is now pregnant. So now Dexter and everybody's like, hey, Rita's pregnant, so maybe it's time for you to start proposing to her. I need to get married, so this way, your new child does not grow up with a family, a broken home where, they don't have a mother and father that are married. Even though, yeah, you can still not be married and still have a good relationship between the two parents, stuff like that. But I generally like that because it gave Rita more to do, and also gave Dexter more to do, because now he's trying to figure out, okay, I need to really become a family man, or else I won't, I'll end up losing everything, because he's starting to realize that he really does care about Rita throughout this season and then the next season. But in a little bit the season after that. But anyway, the next character we're going to talk about is Dev. So there's something I said in season two. Um, Deb did not get her shield until this season. By the end of the season, Deb will finally be able to get her shield. I swore she got it during season two, but she got onto the force and still learning the ropes. This one, she's really starting to take charge, because it wasn't for Deb and because of a couple of other people, they would never have figured out who the main killer of the season is, being the Skinner is, while Dexter's obviously dealing with Miguel's situation. And I really do like that for the season, is that we really get to see Deb really becoming more of an analytical and really is very intelligent. She also gets a new love interest in here, the only reason why they even get involved with each other is because of the fact that he's a victim of the Skinner, so they get very close to each other during the season. And you have, of course, Deb throughout it just trying to like help him out. And I loved, her relationship with Angel is getting more closer. Of course, her relationship with Dexter, and also her relationship with just everybody else in Miami Metro. She's really good, and then of course she's still trying to get over Special Agent Lundy, because they had to unfortunately stop seeing each other because he's off on another case. So yeah, next character we have is Angel. Angel this time around is now the new sergeant on Miami Metro. He finally got that title because obviously Dokes is gone. So they were trying to figure out who is it going to be. So they end up picking him. And of course, he's slowly getting more intimate with Maria. They're becoming more of a thing throughout this season, especially in the next season. And I really am liking those two together, because you can always tell the tension between those two. But it is nice to know that this season, and especially the next season, we get to see more with that. And of course, he's still a mentor to Devs, teaching her the ropes, and he's really pushing her to like get her detective badge and everything like that. So he's I really like him throughout this season. And of course, the next character will be the main. Well, I call everybody calls him the main killer of this season, even though technically the Skinner's the main killer. But we are going to be talking about Miguel. Miguel is probably one of my favorite characters in here. I know a lot of people are mixed about Miguel. A lot of people really like him, and some people don't like him. That's why they said there's not people's favorite season, but I really like Miguel because we finally had somebody that actually learned about Dexter's secret, that he is a serial killer. But instead of Miguel doing the right thing, since he is a prosecutor, is actually, telling people like, hey, I think Dexter's a serial killer. I really think he might be the Bay Harbor Butcher. I don't think it was Dokes that was the Bay Harbor Butcher killer, but he ends up hiding Dexter's secret, and it makes it a little bit easier since he's a prosecutor. He can get people off a lot more easier, so they're able to kill more people much more efficiently. And Dexter doesn't have to fully jeopardize his own work to make it work. But over time, Miguel, after he successfully gets his first real kill, he ends up becoming more addicted to it. He wants to kill all the time. He just want to take out anybody that gets in his way. While Dexter's trying to explain to him, like, hey, you can't just kill these random people. You gotta only take out people that are absolutely evil. People who have done terrible things to other people or to a bunch of people. That's the people we need to take out. And that's what makes their relationship so fun, is because you have Dexter seeing an alternate version of himself where, what if I didn't have Harry's code? What if I just became like a serial killer, just doing whatever I want? Even though technically you could also say that about, of course, the Ice Truck Killer in season one, but they really do a great job, and I love the relationship. Even had one of the most iconic scenes in the show with these two, and I really felt for Miguel throughout this whole season. You get to learn about more about his backstory and everything. Of course, his brother was killed at the beginning of the season, so he's looking for his brother killer, and just so many great things that they was able to do. And the last character who I'm going to make mention, because this is going to be the first time he is introduced, is, of course, Joey Quinn. Joey Quinn, or I'll just call him Quinn for the rest of the show, is first introduced throughout the season because obviously with Doak's gone, they need another regular person to work the regular cases since Angel's now in a higher position. And I really like his character a lot. I think he's a very fun character. I like the way that he is very, he's a very straightforward person. He's has his own issues and stuff like that. We get to learn more about his backstory throughout the season. I really love the relationship between him and Deb, how they started to slowly get closer with each other, and they make great partners together. And I could potentially see these two getting together, like as an actual relationship. I think they would be great together. But I just really like him. But he needs to see, he's a little shady because, he is an ex-dirty cop. And his tie with being in Miami Metro will slowly turn him into a much clean-cut cop. But there's just so many interesting about him starting out. But obviously, once the season go along, we'll get to learn way more about him. Because I think, in the next season? No, actually, well, one in the season, he gets to learn a lot more about Dexter, and I love that he's one of the only few people outside of Dokes that really is very weary of Dexter. It's like, hey, something off about him. Like, we should all probably look into that, but you know, and make a quick mention, Maria throughout this season, she's still very hungry to become a captain. She wants to get much higher into the field, but of course everything is getting in her way, especially their captain is constantly getting in her way. And I love that we get to learn more about her relationship with Miguel, how they were friends at the beginning, they dated for a short while, and they are very close. And you can kind of tell that she kind of regrets, like, leaving Miguel. Like, maybe she should have stayed with him. But of course, she's trying to do everything she can to help him with finding his dead brother, killer, and also trying to figure out who the Skinner is as well. But they really do a good job with her throughout the season. But overall, that's all I gotta say about Dexter season 3. I hope you guys enjoyed. I personally really love this season. I know a lot of people don't, but I just really loved it. So I hope you guys like this. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe as always. Don't forget, everybody, love and peace. See ya.